right, I guess my 2-minute warning worked really well, and it got really quiet really fast, which is awesome. So I know we'll still have a few come in, but we're going to go ahead and get started, guys. Well, welcome to First Thursdays. As a few of you know, my name is J.K. Evix. I'm the Sustainable Tulsa Board of Directors President for this year, and my day job is plant engineer at Bama Pie, just down the street. And so really excited to have you all here today for the program. Believe it or not, it's the 7th year for First Thursdays, and really excited to see how the program has grown recently, and really excited to tell you a little bit today about a new partnership between Sustainable Tulsa and TCC. And so Sustainable Tulsa is happy to be partnering with TCC to kind of help grow our impact in the Tulsa area and engage with the community. So that's what we're excited about. And I'm going to introduce Cindy Shanks, who is going to share how their partnership with Sustainable Tulsa will assist their efforts here at the college. So Cindy is the Dean of Engaged Learning at TCC, where she helps lead faculty development efforts, particularly around the use of high-impact practices in and out of the classroom. She started out with a master's degree in sociology from Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, and has spent more than 25 years in higher education, where she's held both academic and student affairs positions. She's really excited to work in the partnership now with local organizations on sustainability, and we're excited about her enthusiasm. So help me welcome Cindy.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today and see this incredible crowd here at the TCC Center for Creativity. I'm really, really grateful for the partnership between Sustainable Tulsa and TCC, and in particular, really, really grateful to Corey Wren-Williams and to our own Mike Lemus for all of the work they've done and that they continue to do in the service of that collaboration. We're working now on creating robust, multidisciplinary, multi-program projects that will help students become the sustainable leaders in this community and in their own families, and which we hope will serve Sustainable Tulsa's goals as well. Really excited to be part of that, and we actually will be bringing some of those projects, doing some of those projects here at First Thursday, so stay tuned and stay put, so to speak. We will be here, and you can help us with that. We're looking for that kind of collaboration. So stay tuned for more information on that right here at the TCC Center for Creativity. It's my pleasure now to introduce TCC's Metro Campus Provost, Dr. Greg Stone. Dr. Greg Stone.
Thank you, Cindy. Just really briefly, I know many of you have been here to the Center for Creativity before. I see a lot of familiar faces, but if this is your first time visiting, welcome. This is our home of our visual arts program, our digital media and 3D design program, as well as journalism, mass communications, and online learning, and a few other things. So welcome to the Center for Creativity. When this building was developed and built a number of years ago, it was really designed in order to facilitate innovation and creativity, not just among our students and our faculty, but also among members of our community. So this partnership with Sustainable Tulsa helps us continue to carry out that mission. So it's great to have you all here today, and we're looking forward to many First Thursdays to come. I do want to briefly thank our faculty and our staff members and some of our students who are here today for your incredible work on helping to push that agenda for sustainability, not only here at the college, but throughout the community. So to all of you who are here today, if I start naming names of people I see, I'll get in trouble because I'll overlook someone in the crowd, but thank you all very much. And as I turn things over to Corey Williams, let me just ask, how many of you heard Corey's interview yesterday on Studio Tulsa? A few people. If you haven't, I would say go to publicradiotulsa.org and find that interview. It was a great interview. Corey, thank you for your leadership and your vision. So please help me welcome the Executive Director of Sustainable Tulsa, Corey Wren-Williams.
Thank you so much, Greg. This is exciting, way more than we expected to come today, and thank you so much for being here. Of course, I see regulars and that come to First Thursdays over the last few years, but also some new faces, so welcome. I want to first thank our sponsors. PSO has been a lead sponsor for us for the last couple years, with Carrie Rowland's been leading that. Also want to thank Matt Newman with Cavanta that's been sponsoring us from our beginnings, and thank you for your continual support for us. And then, of course, our new sponsors, TCC Creativity Center, as well as Mike McCann. I saw Mike out there give a wave with Ken Law, so let's give them a round of applause for their support. And I also want to thank my board. I've had amazing, the last couple years have been really amazing, the growth that we've had and the support I've had from my board. You met J.K. Evix earlier, and also Matt Newman. I saw Matt Schultz, I think he's maybe still here. Also Richard Gajan, Mike Lemus, Tracy Poe, Rick Katarski. I see a past board member, Marilyn Iloff, back there. It's good to see her. And David Shelton. So let's give them a round of applause for their support. As Cindy was mentioning, this growth has been really exciting for us. We've met at coffee shops over the last 7 years, and it's been fun, and it's been good for our process, but we kind of outgrew Foolish Things Coffee Company across the street there. So, and now we're here, and we're really excited about this partnership with TCC. I really want to thank Cindy and Mike and Rob for their leadership and helping to develop this partnership. What we want to do is grow the conversation around sustainability. We want to hear your voices in this conversation, and how we'll be doing that is through this participation, but also adding roundtable discussions that we'll have at the end of our presentations, where there'll be a deeper dive into that a particular discussion. So on the cards on your table that were provided there by Mike Lemus and his student volunteers, we want to hear from you what kind of topics you're interested in for roundtable, as well as the general presentations and other kind of things that you're looking that Sustainable Tulsa and the First Thursday programs can bring. So please let us know what you think, and I think there's students around there picking up those cards. So we're looking forward to this relationship, so we really thank you all for wanting to partner with us. Just a couple other quick updates. Oh, next month we'll be here, of course, for First Thursdays, and it'll be on the bike share program. Daniel, give a wave. He'll be one of our presenters, and we'll also have a blender bike, so don't miss that. You get to ride that next month. So we're going to be hearing about this great program that's launching this fall, and just another example of how wonderful Tulsa is. We are an innovative crowd of people, and I see so many of you out there with great ideas and have been implementing these and have been supporting this growth. And so thrilled that we're going to continue this conversation to be a partner in this with you all. One of our other programs, if you're not familiar with, is our B2B Case for Sustainability series. This is where we have a conversation a little deeper with our business community. A panel of experts will talk on different topics, as well as Matt Newman moderates for us. And the next one will actually be in this room, August 31st, and we will be highlighting our scorecard members. And who's heard of our scorecard program? I'd like to get a sense of that. Okay, well, we've got a couple folks out there. That's wonderful. Our scorecard program is where we're working with businesses, government entities, as well as higher ed and nonprofits about how to manage space and people a little better, and looking at that triple bottom line strategy in your approach. We'll be celebrating their successes on August 31st, so we hope you'll join us for that scorecard program. And we're hearing from our members from as small as $13,000 savings for a year up to over $500,000. And that's just looking at our scorecard and utilizing that as a platform and our program. And so we'll be hearing about some of those results. And if you think about that, that's not $13,000 or over $500,000. That's that amount times how many years that's unchecked, that you're not doing something different. And so there's lots of things that we can do. So if you're interested, sign up for sustainabletulsainc.org for our email updates. We'd love to hear from you and give you an update Also, we have an MIT, where MIT is our Monarch Initiative of Tulsa. We are a member of that. I see Rick Kotarski there with the zoo, where he's also a member of the Monarch Initiative. And I think I see Don Pugh there with American Airlines. They were just in the paper about installing a Monarch way station. And so we were glad to be a part of that. And so anyway, that's another element of what we're doing. If you're interested, come to our website. And then we have the Bellman Awards, the Henry Bellman Sustainability Awards. We're looking at nominations this week, and we'll be celebrating them on September 14th. So if you're interested in sponsoring the Bellman Awards, come see Matt or myself. We'd love to have you sign up. But that's just a breath of kind of what we're doing. If you want to get more engaged, we'd love to see you at those programs as well. So today we have an amazing program and a great group of folks here from Mayor Bynum's team. Kathy Taylor, unfortunately, will not be joining us today, but I know Nick Doctor is going to help fill in, and the team will where they can. She was pulled away for an economic development meeting, I believe, today. So we'll miss her, but we'll catch her hopefully next time. We have James Wagner. James Wagner serves as on Mayor Bynum's team as the Chief of Performance Strategy and Innovation. James leads a team that empowers the city to use data and drive towards strategic goals and lower barriers to adopting innovative practices. Their flagship program, Tulsa Start, provides a forum for the city leaders to set goals and use data to track progress and try innovative strategies. Throughout his career in local government, James has led transportation innovation, incentives as master plans, commonly known also as the GO Plan. He's an alumni of the Mind Fellowship and serves as a trustee of the Metropolitan Tulsa Transit Authority. He's a graduate at OSU and Georgia Tech with a degree in finance, city planning, and civil engineering. We also have Nick Doctor. Nick Doctor currently serves as the Chief Community Development and Policy for the City of Tulsa as a member of Mayor G.T. Bynum's cabinet. In his role, Doctor works to build opportunities for prosperity for Tulsa's residents and strengthens the city's ability to develop, attract, and retain talented individuals. Prior to joining the mayor's team in December 2016, Doctor served as the Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for the Tulsa Regional Chamber. He's received his master in political, his degree and bachelor's degree from in history and political science from the University of Tulsa in 2008, and received his master's in political management from George Washington University in 2012, and is a graduate of the U.S. Chamber Institute for Organizational Management. We also have Dawn Warrick. Ms. Warrick has served as the City of Tulsa's Director of Planning and Development since December 2011. In her role, she implements Planet Tulsa updates to the City of Tulsa's comprehensive plan. And you see a little information on your tables there. Ms. Warrick previously oversaw current and long-range planning activities for Louisville Metro government, and before that at the City of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Ms. Warrick holds a bachelor's degree in landscape architecture from the University of Arkansas, a master's degree in geography from the University of Arkansas, and is a certified planner by the American Institute of Certified Planners. My goodness, what an amazing group of people we're going to hear from. So let's welcome them.
Well, thank you, Corey, for inviting us to be here. I'm a big fan of Sustainable Tulsa and have been to many of the events that you all have hosted in the past, and this is by far the biggest one that I've been to, so really appreciate you all inviting us to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing. I'm kind of the warm-up act, maybe a little bit in terms of what we're talking about, but what we're doing in terms of using data to drive decision-making in the city. This is something that Mayor Bynum really had as a high priority when he ran for mayor, and really wanted to make sure that we institutionalize the use of data within the city. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about how we're doing that and how we're also exposing data to you, the people who live and own businesses in the city of Tulsa, and then finally kind of wrap up with how we're strategically planning over the next 6 months or so to really orient all of the departments of the city towards some strategic goals. So I'll start with our mission. So our mission of the little office of 3 that I lead is to empower the city of Tulsa to use data to align citywide strategies toward goals set by the mayor and the council and lower barriers to innovation. So I'm going to talk about kind of how we do that. So first, I said, I mentioned these goals. So back in December, we had a half-day retreat where the mayor and the council, on his second day of office, had a forum where we put together some sort of overarching citywide goals. We classified those into 4 categories: well-being, the city experience, opportunity, and inside City Hall. The first 3 are kind of the external-facing piece of what we do, how we serve you as the residents and businesses of the city, and the last one is how the organization internally operates. And so under those, we had 15 goals and 21 measures that fed up to those goals. So we've started over the last 6 months trying to figure out how do we make an impact on these high-level goals. And these are things like reducing the life expectancy gap between North and South Tulsa, reducing traffic fatalities in the city, reducing the violent crime rate, increasing per capita income. So these are high-level goals that some of them we have the ability to influence dramatically from the perspective of municipal government. Others, we really have to partner with other organizations to really make an impact on those. So we recognize that those are the high-level outcomes that we're trying to achieve, but we have to really measure what matters to you in your life to improve the quality of life in the city. So how do we do this? How do we kind of operationalize what we're doing? I'm not going to talk about all these pillars, but the 3 pillars of the Office of Performance Strategy and Innovation are: first, strategy; second, data and transparency; and third, results. Today I'm just going to talk about Tulstat and the dashboards, which is the public-facing side of what we're doing, and then strategic planning. So first of all, Tulstat is a program that we actually kind of learned from a few other cities that have been doing this around the country. There's probably maybe 24 cities that are doing a program like this. And what they're doing is they're saying we need to identify an issue, identify a goal and a way to measure it, and then identify strategies on how do we get to that goal, and then meet regularly to talk about those. So in the first few months, we had meetings monthly. The mayor attends these meetings. I usually don't look so serious in these pictures, but the mayor attends all of these meetings, and what we do is we have the departments of the city that are external facing. They attend these meetings and provide basically, just like what I said, we have an issue, a goal, a way to measure it, and a strategy to get there. And we, at first, were doing these once a month, and now we've accelerated that to once every 2 weeks. So once every 2 weeks, the mayor is chairing a meeting where departments are reporting on what they're doing. I decided, just because this is probably a salient topic for what we're talking about here today, to include the slide that we just had last month for our June meeting on recycling contamination. So as it turns out, 15% is the number, as the target that we need to hit as a city in terms of getting below that number in order to avoid paying extra fees to dispose of the contamination within our recycling stream. And so this is the data that was presented at that meeting for one of the departments, and kind of talked about how we talked about strategies and how we're going to get there. So the data's here. We always connect these. You see in the lower right-hand corner a connection to the mayor and the council goals. So in this case, it's housing and transportation costs, because if you're a resident and you have to pay to dispose of your refuse, then that goes into what your cost of housing is. And then we have a status indicator, so just a simple red, yellow, green light that kind of gives an idea of where we are on this. And obviously, this is one where we're trying to improve. So right now, the trend is sort of heading toward that goal, but as you can see, it's fluctuated over time. We also have started to implement data dashboards. So in addition to this kind of internal management piece, which is what Tulstat is really all about, we have stood up a few dashboards. So we have 2 different types. There's the quantitative dashboards. So we have one on animal welfare that will tell you everything you ever want to know about our animal welfare department, from how many intakes do we have to how many outcomes, what are the reasons the animals end up in the shelter, and it's all there in a data dashboard that kind of breaks it all down for you, so it's not too complicated to understand. And then there's also our qualitative dashboards, which is like our community policing dashboard. So the community policing task force finished its work in March, and then since then we've been tracking with the 77 recommendations that came out of that report, and they're online at cityoftulsa.org/dashboards. And over the next few months, we'll be updating those regularly so that you can see the progress that we're making on implementing those recommendations. And so this is how, as a former planner, I know that there's lots of plans that get worked on really hard and then put on a shelf, and this is how we keep that in sight so that we can keep working toward those goals. I'll talk a little bit about strategic planning, because that's sort of the phase that we're heading into now. We've kind of figured out how are we measuring what we're doing and how are we communicating with the public about data. But in terms of thinking about how does the organization align to these goals, this is kind of a diagram that explains kind of where we are. And I think right now we're in the kind of this reactive stage, but we're moving toward aligning toward these strategic goals. And the way we're doing that is by going through a strategic planning process over the next 6 months that will really hope to help to shape where we fit within the broader context of making an impact on these citywide outcomes. So we know that we are only one piece of it, and we have to define whether we're the lead role of that, whether we leverage other folks to take initiative on that, or whether we collaborate or just simply support in terms of the outcomes that we're looking for as a city. So that will be a really fun process over the next 6 months that will help us to really refine the specific things that we can do as a city to make an impact on those goals. I did want to recognize just quickly, we have some great national partners that we've been working with. What Works Cities and Results for America are Bloomberg Philanthropies driven organizations, and both of those have contributed significantly to how we've stood up this program. We've learned a lot of best practices from those organizations, and many of you know that the mayor participated in the Moneyball for Government Fellowship a couple years ago. I'm participating in that fellowship currently, and that will really enable us to really be leaders in terms of not just what's happening here in the city, but on a national scale in terms of performance and innovation. So with that, I want to turn it to Nick, and I think we're going to hold questions for the end. So thank you.
Perfect. All right. This is hands down one of the more intimidating crowds I've had the good fortune of being in front of, but luckily the camera's not right here, so that makes it a little bit more bearable. So thanks for taking that bullet, James. Hard pass. Thanks, though, Matt. So my job with the city is really focusing on some of the external elements that James spoke about. So for his strategic plan, he spoke about the categories of well-being, opportunity, and city experience. And so that's a lot of where Kathy Taylor's and my work dovetail from economic development and community development. And a big part of the reason for that is that as we look at what drives city success, especially in terms of economic development, the games and the rules of the game have changed in the past 10 years. Kind of traditional economic development says that your tax rates and your structure of incentives really drives where businesses choose to locate, and that the people will follow those jobs. And that's been turned on its head in the past 10 years. And so for cities now, the most important thing is how you attract talent to your city. And the role has now shifted where individuals move to where they want to live and where affords them the opportunities and the quality of life that they're seeking out. And then businesses largely follow that. And so we talk a lot about how Tulsa is in a war for talent right now. And that comes from both how we train and build our own talent here locally, how we recruit talent to our city, and how we retain the talent once they're here. And so we're not losing that and bleeding out. And so much of our focus there is on how the city can be sustainable in terms of our talent that we have here, the health of our citizens, which is another key driving factor, and the quality of life that we can afford. And so a lot of that drives toward one of Mayor Bynum's kind of top two goals of increasing population for the city of Tulsa. If we're doing that well, that's an indicator that we are a place that people want to live, that we're attracting highly talented individuals, that we're a city that's seen as having opportunity. And so a lot of the other metrics build down from that as a key goal. And so I wanted to start off by talking about all the negatives, about what are the barriers that we face. So the first one is one that James already talked about and that Mayor Bynum talks about a lot. And it's been a frequent talking point. Dr. Schumann can speak more to this from OU than I can. But we have substantial health disparities between different parts of our city. And that's an important indicator because it really points to a lot of other key factors that are underneath that one data point. While we've done a good job of reducing this from 14 years to a little bit more than 10 right now, it really points to challenges in terms of income equity It points to racial disparities and some significant struggles that our city still has in overcoming that. It points to equity in terms of healthcare access and affordability. It points to built environment challenges in terms of how walkable and navigable and safe your community is. And so those are all key elements. We're looking at barriers that we need to move down to be effective on those that this one really points to for us. And the second one is more of a structural one from the city of Tulsa's side in terms of what we're able to accomplish with the resources that we have. And so Oklahoma is one of a couple of states that forces, well, actually it's the only state that forces its cities to rely solely upon sales tax for a majority of its general fund. And with online sales and with everything else coming online, that really restricts the resources that we have to do our work. And is a key piece for us being sustainable as we look to afford and be able to successfully implement ideas that drive quality of life and make this a place that people want to live. So how are we addressing those and working to make Tulsa world-class and sustainable? One of the key things that's falling under my purview right now is Vision Tulsa. And so Vision Tulsa was our sales tax initiative that passed in April of 2016. And funding came online in January. The past few months have been done in planning, and we're just now seeing projects that are going to be breaking ground here in the next month for some of our first key projects. So a quick recap of what Vision Tulsa included. There were 3 components of Vision Tulsa. The first was public safety. That's a key element for 3 different reasons. One, safety is a key component and a core function of government and something that our police force was under-equipped to implement. 2, we're driving very hard, as James mentioned, with our Community Policing Commission, and a lot of that is having the manpower to not just be reactive, but be proactive and be able to be effective partners in the community. And so that gets to manpower concerns. And 3, it's actually a pretty chief indicator in terms of who's looking at moving to your community. So surprisingly, for me at least, if you're looking at young professionals and why they either travel to a city to visit it or choose in a city to live in it, the top concern in both of those categories is crime rates and public safety. And so crime and public safety is a key component of that. The second was streets and transit. I think if you ask just about any Tulsan in any poll that I've ever seen what their top issue is locally, it's always streets and potholes. And so we're doing a good job of investing that and improve our Tulsa, but how we maintain that is critical. And so this hired and equipped streets maintenance crews so that investment goes longer and we're not just rebuilding streets to watch them fall apart again. And then more importantly, from a kind of health and access perspective, it implemented Oklahoma's first dedicated transit tax. So we're the first in the state of Oklahoma to do that, and that is going to allow some really neat things to come online for us. And then finally, there were 37 individual economic development projects from the Arkansas River to Mohawk Sports Complex to the Gilcrease to GO plan funding for bikeability and walkability, a lot of other components that came in there. So public safety is going to be coming on as part of our budgetary process. Mayor Bynum was able to include, with the council's help in this first budget, the largest class that's ever been included in a single year in the city of Tulsa for 90 additional recruits. And so that will be bringing them on quickly, and they'll be trained and brought in under a lot of the recommendations that are part of the Community Policing Coalition. Second, streets. We've already hired and equipped 3 streets maintenance crews that are out there doing that work as part of our Improve Our Tulsa work. And transit is really building out to 5 goals, 5 chief goals. So last week was the official announcement that Sunday service is beginning for the first time in the 49-year history of Tulsa Transit. And so finally, for individuals that rely upon transit to get to their jobs or to get to grocery stores, being confined to a standard work week of Monday through Friday, which is not typical for a lot of people, is no longer a barrier. We're looking at expediting the Peoria Bus Rapid Transit route, which was initially scheduled for 2022. We're looking at an opening of that in June 2019 right now, so it's about as quickly as we can order buses. We brought funding forward as soon as Mayor Bynum came in, and it's about an 18-month lead time for those buses, and so they'll be purchasing those soon, and we're looking at getting that done in 2019. We have the Route 66 Bus Rapid Transit that's forecasted to go down 11th Street right now. That right now, the earliest that we could look at doing that is probably 2021, but that is contingent upon a couple of other funding pieces coming together. The downtown, midtown circulator that will connect the gathering place and kind of key midtown entertainment hubs and entertainment loop, and then planning for a downtown transit hub as we look at what our future looks like 20, 30 years out in the future with rail, a robust bus system as bike share comes online, how we connect all of those pieces together and really provide a hub for those pieces. And then finally, economic development. So as I mentioned, we had 37 projects that were a part of that, and really a core goal of Mayor Bynum's when he first came in was how do we expedite the implementation of those projects so that the city of Tulsa benefits from them for as much of that 15-year timeline of Vision Tulsa as possible. And so we pulled 80% of the projects, and thanks to the brilliance of our finance team, we're able to get 80% of those projects funded and hopefully constructed in the first 5 years of Vision Tulsa. And so we are moving awfully quickly right now to get all of that work set up, and so you'll be seeing some of those projects breaking ground here in the next month or so. And happy to do a deep dive in any of the projects and questions if you have them. One of the bigger pieces, Arkansas River, we're obviously doing a lot of investment in some of the low water dams and some of the infrastructure there, but a key piece of that is how we continue to build out our world-class trail system and connect that to key neighborhoods. And so the pedestrian bridge is going to be a big part of that. Thank you for everyone who submitted ideas and comments on this. We were lucky to have more than 15,000 Tulsans participate in that process and help us decide what the final bridge was going to be when it was selected. And this will be a key both access point to the gathering place, but it also connects Eugene Field and other neighborhoods in the West Bank to that park in a meaningful way and makes that an equitable place for people to be able to attend. And finally, a couple of other key pieces that we're working on. Talked about education quite a bit, and the city's doing everything it can right now from both the mayor and the council side to be as supportive of our education system as possible. Now, everyone here is aware of how terrible that situation is right now at the state capitol, and it's not typically a realm the city has jumped into in the past, but we're doing everything we can to change that. So part of that comes from us championing key programs like Reading Partners in this picture, which has a really proven ability to move children and close reading gaps, especially in the first grade through third grade level, when that's really a key point for them. Things like FAFSA completion and enrollment in key programs like pre-K, and I could not leave out Tulsa Achieves while standing in a TCC building. And so using kind of the bully pulpit to push those programs forward. Second is really being a voice for education at the state level, and so lobbying for and advocating for that and really saying why that's important to cities and providing another lens there so our education partners aren't arguing for that and fighting for that alone. And then what we can do to more effectively support our schools on a local level. So we're doing some of this in Vision already with some teacher retention and recruitment strategies and some safety issues for students, partnering with Tulsa Transit to allow high school students to ride the bus for free to get to and from work. And then Mayor Bynum's been very clear a couple of times now in asking the legislature to give us a tool so we can invest in education in a meaningful way on the local level as well. And finally, before I end all this long-windedness, one of the key components of a sustainable community is really that we are both equitable and inclusive in all of our work. We've talked a lot about some of the barriers that make us inequitable and non-inclusive right now. So one of the key pieces that Mayor Bynum has already pushed for is greater diversity and inclusivity in our decision making. And so that comes a lot from the diversity of our staff. I know you have two white guys standing in front of you today, but we have an incredibly diverse staff, fortunately, and some brilliant insight that comes into every layer of our decision making because of that. I have a couple of individuals on my staff in particular who are focused specifically on outreach and inclusion of the Hispanic and African American communities in Tulsa and making sure that that voice is included in every decision that we're making. And we finally are working to shift the makeup of our authorities, boards, and commissions, which have a really key role in our decision making. And so thanks to the council's support, we just shifted from an imbalance of about 25% women to 75% men to a 50-50 balance, and we're working on racial equity right now as well. And finally, a kind of key piece that my office in particular is working on, thanks to Christina Starza-Mendoza, who's a brilliant mind that we have on our team, really working with our immigrant community in particular. And so as we're looking at talent, one of the kind of key indicators we're looking at is in TU, for example, for a petroleum engineer or for a mechanical engineer, 60 to 70% of those graduates right now are international students. And so if we're not making Tulsa a city that is keeping that talent here, we are training and then losing a lot of very bright minds that could help build our city up. And finally, diversity and inclusion is a key indicator that young professionals and professionals of all ages look to in terms of a city that's going to allow them to be successful and that allows everyone across the spectrum to be successful. And so if we're not nailing that as a city, we're going to continue to slip. And so being very intentional about that and how the city as a whole is welcoming and inclusive to our immigrant community is going to be a key part of our work as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Don Warrick to be far less winded.
I don't have pretty pictures for you. These guys are hard acts to follow. I do have some handouts, and I'm sure that there are not enough for this fantastic crowd because you all just came out in big numbers today. So appreciate that. In my role as the Director for Planning and Development, we actually, I think, kind of take the direction from the mayor's administration, from the folks that are setting the big picture, and work that into a nuts and bolts day-to-day. How do we get that done in a real meaningful way? So our effort to grow the conversation about sustainability is to carry that message into implementation through developing plans, working on land use regulations and programs that impact our built environment on a day-to-day basis. Our charge is taking the opportunity, well-being inside City Hall and city experience goals of the administration, the mayor and the council, and aligning our programs and work tasks to ensure that the things that these gentlemen discussed are embedded in the way that we conduct our day-to-day activities. So for planning, the things that are probably most meaningful in that kind of laundry list of goals touch on things like improving and increasing jobs and improving and increasing our population and opportunities such as transit access. And those are things that we work on and have worked on very diligently, specifically since the adoption of Planet Tulsa, which is the city's current comprehensive plan. So one of the goodies that is, I think, floating around the various tables is a one-page update to progress report overview of where we've come since the adoption of Planet Tulsa in 2010. And some of the key points, and just in case anybody wants to just nerd out on this stuff, you can find it all at the city's website or go to planettulsa.org. Lots of good information there. The comprehensive plan established some guiding principles that set the framework for how we as a community are moving forward. And keep in mind, the comprehensive plan is not just something that we cooked up at City Hall. It was a huge community outreach effort. It took 2 years. It took over 5,000 people, surveys, workshops, meetings, town halls, everything that we could possibly do to ensure that the community was planning with us and that we were planning for the community, with the community, and not just kind of dictating this is what we think we need to be doing. So just to recap a little bit, the guiding principles within Planet Tulsa focus on what Tulsans want in the next 20 to 30 years: a vibrant and dynamic economy, ability to attract and retain young people, an effective transportation system, a range of housing choices, emphasis on preserving the environment and increasing sustainability, and a commitment to transparent, equitable decision-making. So I think in all of the things that you all are hearing today, we're hitting on those guiding principles, and it's really become ingrained in the way that we do business. And I think that's definitely, it speaks to our primary objectives of ensuring that Tulsa becomes a world-class city, that we are on that competitive level, and that we are meeting those high expectations that the citizens have set for us. Since 2010, the adoption of the comp plan, at about the 5-year point, we kind of took the pulse of how we're doing in implementing the comprehensive plan. And we identified within the plan itself 296 action items. So this was our marching orders. And we've determined, using measurable data-based benchmarks, that we have initiated or accomplished about 74% of those action items. Some things were fairly easy to kind of get put in place. Some things are definitely going to take a little more time. And keep in mind that a comprehensive plan for a community is intended to be a long-term planning document. It's intended to carry us for 20 to 30 years. And it will require some update as we move forward and things evolve within the community. So moving forward, some of the steps that we are charged with taking as we kind of go into the next 5 years of Planet Tulsa include revising subdivision regulations, continuing to conduct small area planning, looking at a redevelopment strategy, refining and building on our transportation network, enhancing housing options, looking at commercial revitalization, and always kind of connecting what we do to in the capital planning program and investing in a way that is responsive to the city's guiding principles that are stated within the comp plan. Developing a sustainability toolkit. That's a specific action item that we are charged with moving forward. And creating an implementation team for our comprehensive plan. So a lot of those things are what we create for the planning department as our work program for the next several years. And we're starting to chip away at that particular list. Also in the room floating around, you'll see a document like this. This is an overview of the subdivision regulation update process, and we're in the midst of doing that right now. One thing that's important when you establish a set of goals and objectives for your community through a comprehensive plan, one of the most impactful things that we can do is to align all of our regulations to those goals and objectives, making sure that the regulatory structure within which people develop private property as well as public property within the community matches and reflects those overriding goals and objectives. So in January of 2016, we implemented and began administering a new zoning code for the city that introduced a lot of things that were established as high priorities within the comprehensive plan. Some of the things that we were able to do include improving housing options. We did not, in the previous set of regulations, have various housing types. It was kind of like you were either going to have a single-family detached home or you were going to have a large multifamily apartment complex. There wasn't a whole lot of in between. Now, we could accomplish those, but it was difficult. It was a laborious process and required a lot of public engagement, which developers don't necessarily like that. So we wanted to encourage people to use different housing types and create different types of communities so that we had complete neighborhoods that weren't just one kind of house and one set price point. So we introduced new housing types. We introduced some new zoning districts that actually allow for mixed-use development on a single lot within an area that in the past it was difficult to go through an approval process in order to have that type of flexibility within your zoning regulations. We also reduced parking requirements, minimum parking requirements wholesale across the board were reduced. And we believe that that is already starting to influence the ability for properties to redevelop, especially infill properties in our older neighborhoods that were built in a way that parking wasn't provided because it was a walkable neighborhood or there was a regional or local area that was kind of designated as parking for a particular retail area. So we're seeing some of the fruits of the labor with regard to the zoning regulations. We hope to likewise see similar improvements in our development patterns and the products that people have access to through an update to our subdivision regulations. And that's a work in progress. And as I mentioned, the flyer that's available in the room and on the website is something that just gives you an overview of some of the key things that we're looking to accomplish with an update to the subdivision regulations. Subdivision regulations, well, all of this stuff's pretty nerdy, but subregs are very technical in nature. It's about dimensional requirements for streets and for lots and different things like that. So we don't expect a whole lot of folks to be really engaged and interested, but we went through a public engagement process with a public review draft for the subdivision regulations. I guess it was about a week ago, and we actually had more than a dozen people come and talk to us about their thoughts and concerns with regard to subdivision regulations. So it was a little encouraging that there's some interest out there. We've also kicked off an update to the city's landscape regulations. This might, I don't know, hit a note with this group a little bit more than subdivision regulations. But we're in the process of working with a consultant who's done a fabulous job working with us on a whole bevy of regulatory projects. But we have a working group, and in the next few months, we'll be taking the landscape regulations out through some public engagement processes and asking you all and others with an interest in the built environment as well as the landscape around us to give us your feedback on how those regulations can better serve our community. So those are the regulatory pieces that we're kind of trying to align with the city's overall goals and objectives. And the other part, or one of the other parts that we work on, is developing programs that will help to carry that vision forward. So one of the things that I believe, well, both of these guys may have, but I think Nick mentioned specifically the bus rapid transit on Peoria. The city had a land use study conducted for 7 of the larger station areas that are planned for that transit line, because we know that matching your zoning, your land use with your transportation opportunities is the best way that you can leverage the investment that the city's making in the transit service and the investment that private property owners will make in their property to ensure that you're getting really good results and that you're making the best use of available resources when it comes to transportation systems. So from the land use study that we conducted, we're looking to develop a program by which property owners will have some resources to rezone their properties if they wish, in alignment with that land use study that calls for a lot of mixed use development to happen at these kind of core intersections. We see those as locations where we will all benefit from greater density, greater activity, more walkability, and just a new type of development that will hit the ground and be more successful because of the resources that we as a community have been able to place in that particular corridor. So those are some of the ways that we're taking these big ideas and working them down to the nuts and bolts on a day-to-day basis. And I think that kind of covers where I wanted to get us, and that probably hopefully leaves us a few minutes for questions. Yes. Okay.
Thank you all so much. So we have a few minutes left for questions. So Will Briere will be passing a mic around. I will too. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we can pass the mic around. So it looks like we have one back there.
I'm going to ask Nick, if you don't mind.
I just tried to get rid of the microphone. Yeah.
Is getting Amtrak service from Oklahoma City to Tulsa a priority for the city, and what is the city doing to further that goal?
I actually might pitch that to James, who knows way more about this from his role at INCOG and his transportation planning there. So I'd say on a surface level, it is a priority, but we're also looking at how we build out our local system here. And so having an Amtrak line from Oklahoma City to here before we have our local transit network in place and robust enough to get people from that destination point for Amtrak throughout our city is challenging. And you get a little bit into a chicken and egg situation there. So it is a priority. What we're looking at right now is what the infrastructure costs are to make that a reality and what some of the logistical challenges in terms of the routes are there. Do you have more than that? Okay. Yes, that will.
Hi, mine's about benchmarking in 2 different areas. When it comes to community policing, how are we going to drill beneath these dashboards and establish a benchmark from where we are today and have some accountability and some ways to measure? And then the other is, how do we develop a benchmark for green spaces and parks and decide what they're worth as they are in green spaces, and then should they be developed and should they be turned into commercial ventures? You know, would Mohawk Park be sold off? What about easements and things like that? So how do you put a value to green space that's not generating revenue?
So there was a word in that community police meeting that I didn't catch. Can you? I just want to make sure I get the question right. How are we benchmarking community policing? Is that basically?
Yeah. How are you going to develop the benchmark so when you go beneath it, you can start with accountability and where we are as a community right now?
Right. So on that dashboard that that you saw, there is basically there was like 3 tiers of sort of like, are we Are we fully implementing? Are we working to implement? And then are we working to identify resources? And so what we're doing with those with that dashboard is that's sort of what what I consider a qualitative dashboard. Sort of, I mean, it has metrics in terms of those 3 levels, but essentially it's looking at are we following the recommendations of the Community Policing Task Force? And so what we're doing with that is we are meeting now weekly with the police department, and we are updating that dashboard weekly as we meet with them, so that we know exactly what's being implemented. There's a lot. I mean, of course, that task force finished in March, and so there's a lot that's been sort of in preparation to be implemented. And so the mayor meets weekly with the police chief, and I'm in that meeting to talk about what we're doing and how we're updating that. So that's how we're communicating to the public about what's going on with that. I would have to think a little bit more about the parks question in terms of benchmarking on green spaces. I know we have data on the number of acres of parks and the types of amenities and things like that. I've always dreamed of having data about park usage, but that's really tricky to get because it's hard to measure. So I'd have to think a little bit more on that one. We don't have a specific measure that's related to parks in the mix right now. So it's a great question, though.
Hello. As a local business owner, how would you suggest a more active role that I could take in order to get, for instance, I have a new business on what I'm going to start terming East Cherry Street. I'm hoping to bring Cherry Street from Peoria to Harvard. How would I go about being actionable on things like that? A clarifier? Yeah, so how do I get plugged in? How do I make sure that my project is going to be heard? How do I champion maybe being someone on a team who helps move those type of projects along on the community level? Is that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll step in a little bit and try and cover Kathy's area there.
Yeah, I figured it was for both of you.
Yeah, so there's kind of a broad area and then something more specific to, I think, small businesses and kind of economic development in general. So the authorities, boards, and commissions are a great way to get plugged in to very specific areas where you have an interest. And as we're kind of cycling through and making recommendations and updates to that, that's a way to get zeroed in on specific city work. Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, look, you have to get it really close. Okay. So authorities, boards, and commissions are a great way to get plugged in and do that volunteer work. It's amazing the kind of recommendations and decisions that those groups make. And we are constantly building out our talent list for that as openings become available. So if you're interested in any of those, let us know and we'll build that to you. The second piece that Kathy is really working on is building out Economic Development Commission again. So that's been defunct now for 2 or 3 years. And really is the organization that's charged with focusing on how we're doing in terms of entrepreneurship, small business work, some of our larger strategies to bring businesses here and to retain businesses here in Tulsa. And that body is being launched again here in the next week, actually. So they're holding their economic summit on, I think, Monday of next week. Yeah. And so it's a week from this Monday. And so that group is really going to be zeroing in, and it'll be spinning off into programs like how do we develop individual communities and key business districts. So areas like how are we strengthening Cherry Street and how are we looking at expanding there. And we also have Crystal Keller on our staff that's really starting to focus in on how are we strengthening business districts and providing them with those resources in particular.
I don't know if I've got a whole lot more to add to that because that's, I think, probably business improvement districts. As we see that, we've seen that successful in a few areas. The Brady Arts District has a very successful business association, and we have a business improvement district specifically in the Kendall-Whittier area. They're tools that can really provide dividends for the participating businesses, and it gives you some local governance that is not necessarily weighed down by kind of all of the bureaucracy of the city that gives you the ability, and maybe through some guidance from the city and support, to really accomplish things locally. And I think that's really part of the emphasis of the economic development team right now, is to try to identify what those resources are and get those in the hands of the business owners and the folks in the community who can do the most good with that information and with those resources. When it comes to things like regulatory changes and planning issues, keep an eye on the website. plug into different community outreach that we do with regard to, like the landscape regulations or subdivision regulations. We always want people to come, and even if it's not your particular area of expertise, you're in the community, you're on the ground, you see this stuff happening around you all the time, and your voice is important, because we don't just want to hear from the industry folk who do this as their job on a day-to-day basis. We need to hear from the people who are impacted by the work that's done with the development of the community. So I'd say just kind of stay observant and plug into the website as much as you can and give us a call. My contact information's on the bottom of the Planet Tulsa handout, so you guys feel free to use it, and we'll try and find activities and information that will help you in your day-to-day as much as possible.
One other quick piece, we're also in the business of doing whatever we can to provide you the resources to strengthen the business network in your part of town. So we're doing that right now for Route 66 in particular. So if you're interested in kind of strengthening what East Cherry Street looks like, let us know. I'd love to connect you with the businesses that are on that corridor and provide the resources and support that we can.
I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll
Thank you.
wrap up. Okay.
Yeah. One idea that I had one idea Kathy Taylor had that I liked was she had all the tax data online. She was going to do that. I guess that's kind of a throw off on the question of the dashboard. How far back is it going to go? Would it follow all the taxes so we can better manage and make better educated votes on getting it? Say, we got a lot of money over here that's being used, but we don't need that much money. We could put it over in more sustainable projects, so we'd know to move it over and it'd be fine. Will it go back that far, the dashboards?
So go back how far?
Following the tax.
The tax packages?
Yeah, the tax.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're actually working on now that we were able to get into this fiscal year budget is a system. We're upgrading our financial system at the city, and it'll go live in October. And so we're going to use that as an opportunity to put basically all the financial data for the city accessible so that you can see sort of into the details of what's happening from a financial perspective of the city. So it'll probably be the end of this year, fourth quarter, before we're able to do that because the new system doesn't start till October. But with our new financial system, it enables us to be able to do that and provide that transparency. So, yeah, revenues and expenditures, yeah.
Well, let's give James and Nick and Dawn a round of applause.